On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, since the turn of the calendar, Kyle, the Avs seem to be stuck in this rut of win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and their most recent one is a loss to the Minnesota Wild. So let's talk about that. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And if you want to get in on the conversation, join our subtext. Link to that is in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, and we get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast, like we will do a little bit later when we get our subtext crew's thoughts on this loss to the Minnesota Wild. And like I said in the opening, since the turn of the century, that's how it's gone for the Avs. They are alternating wins and losses. If you go back to the last game of 2024, it was a win. So they started off with multiple wins, and then actually, I want to get this good of it right. Because I want to, before that is when they went on their run, like at the end of December, from right before Christmas on. They ended 2024 with 5 wins in a row. That was when we were like, oh, this team has got it. And then they started 2025 with the overtime win against the Sabres, and then they've got loss to Canadians, win to the Panthers, loss to the Blackhawks, win to the Wild, loss to the Jets, win to the Rangers, loss to the Oilers, win to the Stars, loss to the Wild. So next game against the Jets, book it, and then they play the Bruins, and then I'll go see them against the Rangers. So they're going to win that game based on what's going on here, right?
So you're telling me every aspect of this Colorado Avalanche team is extremely predictable.
Insanely predictable.
Okay.
It's insanely predictable. And the other word that, and you see it if you're watching on YouTube, is consistency. So they're consistently inconsistent, is as predictable as we can be.
What could go wrong? I mean, that's exactly what you want from an Avalanche team.
We got this team figured out. So what do you got in this game? Like they lose 3-1. They give up 2 goals in the third, which, we're not used to as Avalanche followers. Like when you get into the third and they're tied at home, those are games that you feel like they usually pull out and win those ones. And when you give up 2 goals pretty quickly, really early, I think when the Wild got their second goal, there was still like 16 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
So you still feel like, there's a lot of time here. But the way it was going for this game just didn't, no real flow for the Avs that they could build on. Like you say, hey, they finish a period good, take that momentum into the next period. It wasn't there for this game. This was just a weird game to watch.
And Chris, I'm hearing you say this. I'm hearing Cale Makar post game saying we just didn't have that flow. I heard Taser when he had that press conference that heard round the world talking about the effort level of this team. I'm hearing Bednar talk about the effort level of this team. When are we going to take this seriously? When do the Colorado Avalanche take this effort level seriously? And this is you have up there the consistency bug and alternating wins and losses. When will the Avalanche take any of this seriously? From power play to effort to when is a change going to come? When do you get that for this Avalanche team? We're all saying this. We've said this for entire 2025. I just don't understand. You had that first period, the wrong Middleton scored. And you go into the intermission and you wait in that second period. Nathan MacKinnon has the highlight of all highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And then former Avalanche Trennan leads the way, and not even 2 minutes away, they put it away. And in those first 2 periods, you register about 11 shots. I think it was 4 in the first, 7 in the second.
Mm-hmm.
what are you expecting to happen here?
Yeah, that's the part for me is the shots on goal. Because again, I don't question the effort. I don't like. I'm not there where I'm like I think they're taking it very seriously. This is number one. This is their job, so I hope they're taking it seriously. They're making a lot of money for this to be taken seriously. Again, I think there's a difference between effort and execution. And that's what, like, when we see a lack of execution, we take it for a lack of effort. And that's not the case for me. Like, I had no problem with what the Avalanche were doing up until they gained the offensive zone. And then that's where things started to break down. I felt like they controlled most of the time with the puck. I feel like they did. And when they get into their offensive zone, if they do a dump and chase, they're not winning those battles. Like, that's the stuff that, like, and you're not keeping the puck in the offensive zone. You're fine in the defensive zone, getting it out of defensive zone, through the neutral zone, into your offensive zone. And then that's where things break down. And where they keep, like, you'll get it every once in a while, because that's just the nature of this team. And when you have your top line out there, those guys are just too good for that to happen for the duration of an entire game. But, what we saw from the second line last game, and we're just singing their praises, that wasn't there in this game. So that's where the consistency comes in. And even the third line, we've been loving this third line with Logan O'Connor. Kiviranta has been on that line. Parsons has been on that line. And they had a tough game. So give credit to Minnesota, because they really bogged everything down in front of the net. It was an easy day for Marc-Andre Fleury. Easy day for him. But that's just going back to my original point, is like, that's where the struggle was in this game, was once you got into the offensive zone, keeping the puck there and just doing your thing offensively.
Well, I'm going to give credit to the Minnesota Wild, but this is also going to be a little dig at the Colorado Avalanche. Like, there was no Kirill Kaprizov in that game. He's out.
You got to take advantage of stuff like that.
Yeah, the Minnesota Wild are hurt, and Cale Makar even said after the game, he didn't feel like after the first two periods that game was out of hand. Understood. It probably wasn't. And you were saying, like, you don't question the effort. And, well, when you register a period with like 4 shots, it's a little suspect. But the point of the game, I don't care how you draw it up, I don't care what the game plan is, you go out there to win the game. Like, that's the point. You have to, and this is a big game. This is a division game. You could have jumped Minnesota in the standings with a win against Minnesota. And guess what you did not do? You did not win the game. And with 4 shots, how do you expect to win a game? If you're not going out there, the point is to win. And I don't know how you could kind of just go around and register 7 shots in the next period and say, oh, we'll give him that third. No, get out there. You have a high-powered, potent offense. We were just singing the praises about line 2 registering a combined 10 points. And where was that? Like, you got one crazy goal from Nathan MacKinnon, and where was the rest of that? You were not putting high danger shots on net. You were not peppering Flower, who's 40, for goodness sake. You got goalie by a 40-year-old. And I don't question the effort, and I know the execution will come when you take the game seriously and where you are and getting those points. Like, that's what's frustrating to me. You see this team do amazing things and then just completely coast. And then when they lose, you're like, it was in hand. We know what we need to do, but we just didn't do it. Well, that's eventually, after hearing it for 2 or 3 weeks, it's got to be a problem.
Yeah, it's crazy that the one goal you got is the goal that's going to be, showed on the highlight reels the next morning of, goal of the night. Excuse me, not just in this game, probably across the league, from Nathan MacKinnon, and that was it. And oh, by the way, they lost that game, and that was their only goal. So you needed a highlight reel goal to score anything in this game. It was tough. It was a grind, and this is where you like to see the Avs kind of come out of that. And they've done that in the past this year, and they haven't done that in the past this year. You're getting both sides of the coin for almost every scenario that you can throw out there for the Avalanche. You've seen them turn things around, and you've seen them struggle to turn things around. And, in the first period, it was 4 shots on goal for the whole first period, I think. And then you only had another 4 for well into the second. It wasn't like, things started to pick up a little bit towards the end of the second period, but that first period was just a lot of back and forth. It was like a tennis match. It wasn't really a hockey game. It was a tennis match, just back and forth. And I'm watching that, and it's frustrating. But at the other side of the coin, I'm like, okay, like it's one of those things where like get through this period, and then you can get into the intermission, figure out some adjustments that you need to make, and then come out and have a better second period. But then you get down, and I don't know. I don't want to say like, because that was so early. I don't feel like the Avs were pressing or anything like that, but just nothing struck where it's like, okay, like we're tilting the ice here. And you didn't really get those possessions where it's just you're making the Wild dog tired, and you're having those minute and a half cycles, and someone on the Wild loses a stick, and now you've gained that advantage. And you didn't get any of that. It was every single possession, it felt like the same thing. And you're just going into your offensive zone, and then the play just breaks down, and that's it. And Minnesota collects, it goes the other way. Frustrating. It was just a frustrating watch, and you were hoping that, hey, you're down 3-1 and 30. Hopefully you can do something to pull this out, have a Wild flurry and a Wild finish. It just wasn't there. It wasn't there for this game.
And I got, after the break, I have some points from both head coaches, which kind of stood out. Especially, I went steady Von Doom, looking at this power play and those advantages that you're talking about and what the Avs do with those advantages. I have a comment on those.
All right, let's get our break in. We come back, we'll hear from that. And then, the quarter century team that Kyle and I, we picked our teams last week. I think we did that show. And then that was announced on Monday. So how did we stack up? We'll do that a little bit later. All right, let's hear from FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's $300 to keep the action going. And the FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. What's going to happen, Kyle? The Chiefs get knocked out?
Oh, that would be magical.
I think you're seeing those memes where it's the map.
Yeah.
Everybody except who people live in like Kansas City are wanting Buffalo. Come on, Buffalo. Do it for the world.
Yeah, let's go. I want Buffalo and I want Philly.
Buffalo, and I don't care. Other than that, I don't care. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, and make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. So before we get to your stats, just one other thing I just wanted to bring up was, in those 2 goals that Minnesota had in the third, based off of mistakes from the Avalanche. One was a clear that they could not get out of the zone. I don't know who it was on Minnesota, stopped it right at the blue line, kept the puck in the zone, and there's that first goal. The second one, it was Parsonen who was going for, he was getting the puck in deep, and the puck just rolled off the blade. It didn't get deep. It went just like right into the offensive zone, but right to the Minnesota defender. They go the other way, and that's the other. I think that was the Brock Faber goal, right? Yeah. So there you go. Like two times you have a screw up, they took advantage of them, and that's the difference of the game. But
yeah,
what do you got?
Going into this matchup, like, and after having a little, since it was an early game, I get to do some real post game like analysis and really hear what it sounds like from the other side. And John Hines going into this game, he said, knowing the high caliber offense that the Avalanche have, you think that you're going to have to defend the whole game. But he said, what is the best defense? A better offense. And he said, we had to get out there and shoot. And guess what they did? They shot the puck a lot. And guess what? It worked. And you have to understand, like, teams see you as the high-powered offense, and you think they're going to resort to that, just, turtle up and just get through the game and just survive. Well, they figured out, hey, guess what? If we just outshoot, we can win the game. And guess what? It works. And Bednar said the execution wasn't there. They had a game plan, and it was frustrating when they have the game plan and nobody's playing by it. That's the other frustrating thing. And you're talking about like those mistakes. I pulled up the power play. We haven't said that word yet, but boy, howdy, it's atrocious. And how bad is it? It was another 0 for night. For those that didn't get to watch the game, another 0 for night. In the last 8 games, you have registered 1 goal. Yeah, that's
on the
bad.
power play. On the power play.
On the power play.
Make sure, yeah.
1 goal in 8 games on the power play. That's 1 in 22 chances. Extended out to 10 games, you have 3 goals in 10 games. That's 3 goals and 30 chances. That's like, you want to talk about you have the advantage. I know for a minute there, Riker was talking about the ability of having 6-on-5 and how that's coming clutch. Well, if you're having to go 6-on-5 at the end of the game, you're not doing something right in the first 2 periods. And that's taking advantage of those power plays and just clean, smart, slow, basic hockey. Like if you're trying to do too much, you're letting in those little mistakes. You're not making the correct passes. And that's what allowed the goals late for Minnesota. If you're trying to do too much, that's what I'm saying. If the Avs could just turn it on and blitz from the beginning, they could do all the coasting they want when they're up 4 or 5-1.
Yeah, as far as the shots go, I'm with you in that. What Minnesota? If that was Minnesota's game plan, let's just get shots on. Like I'm all for that. You know what I mean? Like even if they're just low danger shots, at least you're just making the goalie move.
Yep.
And making him stick a pad out and just do something. And believe it or not, the Avalanche ended up winning the shots on goal battle in this game by 1, 27-26. And you would not think that was the case the way that this game started. But when that's and again, that's easier said than done. But just trying to get anything directed towards the net, anything. And the Avs struggle to do that. When it comes to the power play, I think we need to just not forget about the power play. I don't mean just forget that we think this is going to be some massive turnaround with the power play. It could, but I think we're all waiting for it to happen like the next game. And have that 3-for-4 night where you're on the power play. Again, you have the guys that you have on that top unit are 3 of the top 10 players in the league. So you should be expecting to break out of this at some point. I've just given up trying to think that today is going to be that day and just waiting for it to have it. When it happens, I'll talk about it after the fact. Like, okay, that was the game that broke out. I can't go into a game anymore saying like, I think this is the game because these are the X's and O's. This is the team they're going up against has struggled against the power play over the last 10, whatever stat you want to throw out to try to juice it up and polish it to make it look like this might be the game where the Avalanche break out of it. Forget it. It no longer can be a thing going into the game where you think it's going to work. It's got to be a thing where when they do it, it's an after the fact type of thing that we can talk about it, because this power play is just, I cannot for the life of me figure out why it's so inept. They're getting zone entries now. It's not the zone entries. It's not that. It's they're finally gaining the zone pretty good. Sure, you have a couple that don't get in the zone. That's going to happen on any power play. But you're getting, again, what I was saying earlier in the show about gaining the zone, that was for 5-on-5, but that's for the power play too. You're gaining the zone and then it breaks down. You lose a battle against the board. A stick gets in the way, something happens, and you don't get, and every once in a while you do get those cycles where you get a few shots on goal, but for the majority of the power plays for the Avalanche, they've just flat out stunk. And you had 3 of them today, and you lost the opening draw, the face-off on all 3 of them.
Yep.
That just sets the tone for the next 2 minutes when you cannot at least win the gift of having the face-off in your offensive zone during a power play, and you lost all 3 of them.
And it goes back to just you gotta simplify it. You gotta scratch it. You gotta scratch it all. This goes back to 5-on-5. You gotta scratch it all. And when you get in that offensive zone, instead of trying to get cute and no look it and force it back to Nate to reset it and get it back to that blue line, you have to do something else. You have to change your point of attack. Do a little tic-tac goal. Go cross crease. Like open something else up. Do another look, because that if you don't have it at first look, go back to Nate. And he doesn't have it, give it back to Taser, back to Cale. Like I could recite like how it's going to look with that top line out there. And guess what? That's why the power play looks the way it does, because that's who's taking it every time. So when you get that zone, the same old, everybody's figured it out. Everybody understands what's going on. You have to change it up. Give it to Mikko, go cross crease, work it back around the net, behind the net, work it up the boards. You have to do something different because it's not working.
I say it all the time. Force something that you don't want it to get intercepted or knocked away, or like that's what I'm saying. Like force something where that might happen, but it be okay, because you're at least letting the defense know we're going to try this, and it keeps them honest to try to what you just tried to do. They think you might do it again, and that opens up something else. It's like play action pass in football. You know what I mean? Like but if you don't have a good running game, the play action pass doesn't work at all. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
So you got to at least, have they used the bumper spot in when's the last time they did on the power play?
I cannot remember.
They don't even use it.
Yeah.
It's just cycle around the outside. And I get that's kind of like their game plan with the power play is it all goes through Cale. And that's fine. I think every team would love to have a power play go through Cale Makar. But that can't be the only option. And
it was healthy, and his foot is fine. So
yeah, but he took that biff into the boards though. Oh man. And then everybody's like, oh, is that because of the foot? I don't know. It looked like he did toe pick, but yeah, it's just more of the same from the power play. And I'd like to see a few different wrinkles here and there, even though if they don't work, it's okay. It's okay if they don't work, because that just keeps the defense honest. So it's frustrating in games like this when you're looking at Minnesota injury depleted. This would have been a perfect opportunity to jump in the points, and you just couldn't do it. Yep. All right, we'll get our last break in. When we come back, we'll do our subtext people, talk about that quarter century team, and then our sound checks as well. So do all that right after this. All right, select quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best team makes it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Olympics, the Stanley Cup final, you name it. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion with a B in cover, $700 billion in coverage since 1985. And what sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. And if you're in good health, you might even get qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you'd think. You can get up to a $1 million policy, $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Select Quote. They shop, you save. All right, let's dive into some subtext people here. We got Lisa says, I missed about half the game due to an appointment. Kind of wish I missed the second half as well. Blackwood was amazing again. Yeah, we didn't even talk about him because he made some incredible saves.
Yeah.
And this could have easily been a 5-1, 6-1 game in favor of Minnesota, but he came up with some great games, and that's what you want from your goalies, to keep you in the game, and that's exactly what he did. So he was fantastic. but the team needs to play with more energy in front of him. Not sure why this team seems to struggle with momentum on a consistent basis. There you go. That's Lisa.
It's confusing. I get it. Trust me.
Yeah.
I wish there was an answer, but there just isn't.
Madam Battleaxe says, first, the good Blackwood is just a beast. Holy cow, he saved the game from getting out of hand. The bad, the power play. What in the world happened to it? It's just inconsistent. There has to be something that can be done. And we can't play like we did against Dallas, then come out and play like this. Just not acceptable. Her sound check is Queen. Another one bites the dust.
So, good song.
Yeah. Never gets old, right?
No.
Mark says, wow, they're such a talented team. Didn't realize that the Kansas City Chiefs house refs moonlighted as NHL refs. There were some iffy calls in this game. And, not on the refs and how this game went one or another, but especially in that first, the Ross Colton one was just like, what is that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have never seen a great NHL ref. So
would have loved to see some production from a dude who believes he's worth $16 million a year. I don't think we've gone up to 16. I haven't heard 16 million a year. 14 million. Yeah, I haven't.
I've heard a lot of 14.
Yeah. And his sound check is sitting, waiting, wishing from Jack Johnson.
Oh, God, I love Jack Johnson.
Maybe we've ever had a Jack Johnson song on our sound checks.
Well, give me a game where I can use banana pancakes.
Yeah. And finally, Cody put up a funny meme here, and it's that like Uno meme where there's a guy holding a bunch of cards, and on the other side it's just the one card, and it says win 2 games in a row or draw 25.
It's right on.
I'll take the 2 in a row, Cody. I will take the 2 in a row right now. So all right, so that's it for this. Do you want to do our sound checks now, or you want to do them after the quarter century team?
Yeah, we could hit them now.
Yeah, might as well. We're on the topic. So, all right, let's do our sound checks now, and that's where we each pick a song that summarizes most recent game. We put these up on a playlist over on Spotify. So, what do you got for this one, sir?
I'm gonna have to go back. This one got me in my feels. This goes to Ice Cube. This one, I'm calling right to the burgundy and blue. You gotta. This is check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Oh wow!
I mean,
okay.
This is a gut check time. Like it's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder why I keep from going under. Like this solely like we've been talking about inconsistent effort and all that for the Avs. Like when is this? Like I asked it at the top of the show, when is it going to bother the Avs? And this comes down to, do you want to play with your season on the line and possibly getting in the playoffs and you're back against the wall? Is that what's going to make it? Like you can make the rest of the season so much easier, your playoff positioning easier. You could do a lot of the legwork you're going to have to do towards the end of the season. You could do it now. Games like Minnesota, this would have been a big one. And when we go to the next month, February, March, April, when we go back and we're looking at these little games that the win, loss, back and forth, there are so many of those losses that you could have easily grabbed 2 points in and made it so much easier when you're going to have to start winning. When you get to win, when we talk about getting a win and needing a win in a couple months.
It's a good one. That's a good one. That's a very nice one. I think, and very well said on why that's your going that one. But that's but it's so funny. Like the rap spoken word is just I don't know, especially for that song, hilarious. But I love it. I think that's a good one. I'm gonna go with there's a song from A Perfect Circle.
Ooh.
And I don't think this was a single or anything like that, but they have a song called Disillusioned. And that's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, if you look up disillusion or disillusionment in the dictionary, it says a feeling of disappointment resulting from the discovery that something is not as good as once believed it to be. And that's the power play. I just went on like a rant about the power play, and I'm not disillusioned with the team. Like I like this team, and I think you got to make. I kind of feel like what's going on now is kind of opening up where we think this team is going to go trade deadline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get your depth moves here. You're gonna get a few moves to slot guys into bottom six roles. You're probably gonna get some defensive moves for some depth defense, which is always something that you want to do. So, but for as far as the power play, it's another. It's just I'm getting like disillusioned with it. So that was where I went. Perfect circle. And they're such a depressing band anyway, so it's like, why not go with them? Sure,
bro. The whole time you're talking about disillusion, I'm thinking about Andy throwing Woody out in Toy Story 2. Oh, you're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Oh man, dude, that is like that's one of the most depressing scenes. It's not real. It's like
his dream
that Woody's having, right?
Yeah.
But for a moment there, you're like, oh my god, he just.
That's how I feel about the power play. Every time they get a power play, I'm like, I don't want to play with you
You're
anymore.
just dumping Woody in the trash can every power play. That's a perfect analogy. Perfect one. So, all right. So you can follow those over on LOA Soundcheck. That was volume number 4 that the ones go on. So, all right. Last thing we're going to get to here is the quarter century team. We talked about this last week. We picked ours, tried to guess who was going to be on it. And it was announced on Monday, and I think overall we did pretty well. I think
passing grades.
Yeah, the only one that didn't make it for the ones that I had was Alex Tanguay.
Yeah,
he didn't make it. Everybody else made it. So your first team, and again, this is 3 forwards. Doesn't matter the position. 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, 1 goalie for two separate teams. And for the Avs, your first team went Forsberg, MacKinnon, Sakic. Your defense was Foote and Makar, and your goalie was Patrick Waugh. And for your second team was Hayduk, Landeskog, and Rantanen. Your defenders are Rob Blake and Eric Johnson, and your goalie was Varlamov. I had the goalies switched. I know Patrick Waugh is the greatest goalie of ever all time, but this was from the year 2000 to 2024.
Yep.
So I went with the tenure over Patrick Waugh, but I don't have a problem really with any of this. I didn't have Peter Forsberg on here. That's where I had Alex Tanguay in. I think you had Forsberg on team 2. And I had Eric Johnson on team 1 just because of what he meant. I have no problem with Adam Foote being on team 1 whatsoever. So, that's really and Hayduk.
Yeah,
I think that's a mistake right there.
That's
the one where I look at where I'm like, I don't agree with that at all. If you want to switch Forsberg and Hayduk, go ahead and do that, because I think Hayduk deserves to be on team 1 for all of what he did was after the year 2000.
Yep.
So I think that's the one where I would say the only one that I don't agree with, and maybe Rob Blake, because I had Lyles. I had Johnny Lyles on there instead of Rob Blake.
Yeah, that would have been my big complaint. Hayduk number 1. I would have flipped Waugh again, because I agree with you. Like, I get it. 7 games in a Stanley Cup, he did great.
Yeah,
but like, it's body of work. There's a lot more games that Varley did play, so I would have given it to him. I'm glad Foote got the call. EJ, I thought that was. I can't complain with that. I didn't even have him on my list.
You gotta love that he's on there though,
and I love that he got to tweet about it. And
he did.
So that was a cool little moment. Yep. But all in all, no complaints about the list. I just think Hayduk got the snub, but hey, he still made the list. So
agreed. Yeah, because it's just how much emphasis do you put on the category? And the categories are longevity, stats, cup. And I think a lot of people are going to put a much more, dollar bills into the cup jar than the other ones. And maybe that's how things like, Forsberg and Waugh got to team 1.
And he was honestly a bridge captain between eras. Yeah. So
he was.
He does not get the love he deserves.
He really doesn't. So, but overall, don't have a problem with it. It's nice to be able to have discussions about that and have a history of a team where they have so many good guys where you can. This didn't just fall into place.
No.
For like it's nice to have a discussion and have other people who disagree with it, because like, hey, that means we've been spoiled as Avs fans to have a good history with some awesome players to go on.
So you're telling me Burakovsky made the all-century team for Seattle?
Seattle? Did he?
I don't know.
Did Seattle's come out yet? I don't know. I don't think Seattle's has come out yet.
What a world.
And we'll have to check that out. So I bet Grubauer's on it. We shall see. All right. That's going to wrap it up for today. So thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And yeah, you guys just made it through another 24 hours where Sidney Crosby is that much closer to becoming a Colorado Avalanche.
Best player of the quarter century?
He would have made the Avalanche squad.